Sacha Jafri, welcome to the show. You've had an unbelievable life. You're probably best known for the largest painting in the world ever created.
The art world is full of smoke and mirrors.
You famously never really worked with galleries.
It's being controlled by 4 people.
They make or break the artist.
Half the teachers at this school think Sacha's a genius, and half of them think he's mad. I feel colour. It's like it vibrates and I feel it.
You lay out all of your paint, your brushes, the colours, and you kind of paint blind?
Because I'm not a painter. I'd love to be known as a genius, but when someone calls me that, I
your
feel
face.
very uncomfortable.
On today's show, I'm joined by royalty from the art world. Sacha Jafri has literally painted for the most famous people on the planet. He's also painted a masterpiece, a 17,000 square foot masterpiece, which is a Guinness record. It actually sold for $62 million. Sacha's story is incredible. You're going to find out a lot about the art world, what really goes on, how people make money, and how people like Sacha have successfully navigated an amazing career out of it. So join me on today's show. It's going to be illuminating.
Come in. Welcome to my studio. Sacha, I'm a British painter called Sacha Jafri. 20 hours a day for 11 months, destroyed my spine, my pelvis, my ankles, everything. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I laid out more canvas. That's when Guinness actually approached us and said, hey, we think you might be on for a Guinness World Record.
Sacha Jafri, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Good to see you.
It's an absolute pleasure having you in my home.
Bless you. Beautiful home.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
It's good to be here.
Yeah. Have you had a crazy day so far, or is it a typical Dubai day?
It's been interesting.
Okay.
A bit of Al-Quds, weird warehouses,
Yeah.
and we had a meeting in a paper mill, which was cool.
Okay, it doesn't
Just
happen
feeling
very
papers, and good day, man.
Very nice. And what mug have you brought in here? You've got a beautiful mug here.
There was only one mug that it was ever going to be. It's my little girl, my Indy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Is that your youngest or your oldest?
That's the little one.
The little one.
And the big one is Talia. The
Okay.
little one's Indiana.
Beautiful.
But
names.
they're the most precious
Does
things
Talia
in the world.
or Indiana get jealous of the other?
Yeah. Both.
How'd you deal
Both
with it?
ways.
How'd you deal with it?
Really badly, according to my wife.
Okay.
Apparently I deal with it really badly. So, they get jealous of each other for different reasons.
Yeah.
Because Indy has more time with me, and Tali gets jealous of that, but she gets jealous by just going quiet.
Okay.
Indy gets jealous of Tali, and she does it in a very loud way.
Okay.
So there's a very different way of
dealing with it.
yes.
Which one are you more like, or are they more like you?
They both, interestingly, they both have me, and I both have them in each other. But so they're very, very different. They're polar opposite, and they're both sides of my personality. So there's a slightly sort of humble, quiet, shy side, which is Tali, very studious, wants to do well. And then there's the maverick, crazy one, which is Indy, who's just she's creating her own path. She doesn't do anything the way it's meant to be done.
By the book.
No.
Which is basically what your childhood was like.
It's sort of what I did. Yeah.
I mean, I've done on my show, when guests come on, I do a bit of research.
That's good.
It helps. It helps. I'm telling you.
It's better
it
to do a
helps.
little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. In your case, man, I had pages of content.
Okay.
And I could stop scribbling it down. I wasn't scribbling, but I was typing. But
I hope, not messy.
you've had an unbelievable life that few could even dare to dream possible. But yeah, you've overcome stuff, you've achieved stuff, and you've lived your life with a full sense of wonderment, appreciation, gratitude, grace, love, humility, all these things. And the energy that I'm getting is very different from obviously online when you see you online. But when I'm seeing you in person, it's like intensified.
Right? That's cool.
It's amazing to have you
in a good way.
on. It's amazing in a way, an amazing way. And it's so great to have you on the show.
Thanks, man.
There's so many things I want to talk to you about. Okay. But I have to be ruthless with my time and also with yours.
Yeah.
So, to start off, you're probably best known for the largest painting in the world ever created. Okay.
Yeah.
Over 17,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Called Journey
of Humanity.
Okay. And this fetched a very nice sum of around $62 million.
Yeah.
Right. Of which you donated 80%, give or take, to charity. In a nutshell, that kind of encapsulates your entire life because of your the enormity of the challenge that you undertook in the first place, right? Going after something so big, right? Having amazing success financially off the back of it, yet taking that moment, taking all of that and giving it back to others.
Yeah.
Do you think that in a really clear, concise way, does that kind of sum up your entire life?
No.
Good. It's deep. It's much deeper, right?
It's it doesn't sum up my life, but it's part of the journey, definitely. I mean, that was a crazy thing. That really was a crazy thing. That was like 11 months painting 20 hours a day.
And you had to go to hospital.
Yeah. Well, didn't just have to go to hospital. I had 2 operations. I was injecting myself with pain injection into my hip every 2 hours. Like, rugby players now, they inject themselves before a game because they're in so much pain just to get through the game. And it was like that, but every 2 hours. So my ankles dislocated from my heels, dislocated from my ankles. My pelvis went out of line on both axes, that way and that way. I had 2 discs herniated to the point where they were 3 millimeters from the central nervous system. So, but the guy that I saw, he said, "You're this close to being paralyzed for life. This thing comes out further, it hits the central nervous system. Halas, you're finished." So it was insane. But I think when you're saying, does it sum up my life? It doesn't. But I tell you what is interesting. The 24 years of painting solidly. I've done nothing else. I painted for 24 years. Now 28 years, but at the time, 24 years solid. Along that journey, you're picking up loads of different things that you're learning along the way. And I think everything did come together for that to become a success. There was a lot of things that I'd picked up on that journey, a lot of pain, a lot of, as you said, things to overcome, a lot of introspection. From the darkness comes the light. So a lot of darkness, a lot of light. Yeah. And all of that came together, and I was drawing on all of that and just releasing it onto canvas. But the hardest part of it, I'm painting 20 hours a day every day. We're staying at Atlantis. Okay, sounds nice, but no one's there because it's shut, right? And we are in one room because it's a hotel room, right? So we're one room and we're a family. Yeah. And that gets tricky. And we had a little, how old is she then? She's 4. So 4-year-olds are, they like to
I'm not quite there yet, but
right?
Soon enough.
You're nearly there. And I was going to bed, getting into the room around 6 a.m. And I was getting an hour to 2 hours sleep. And then I was waking up in my painting clothes, washing my face and just walking back down to the canvas. No, not even showering because there was no point. I was just covered in paint. And that took a lot of toll, right? But I did that for 11 months. And then I had this huge thing on the floor, huge thing, 17,000 square feet. And then I had to work out, how do I create something from this on the floor that can be hung, that can be sold, that can raise money for charity? That was the hardest bit of all, because I had to basically reconfigure the entire thing, find things that were salvageable from this mess on the floor. Most of it was ripped, destroyed, like disheveled bits of canvas. And I had to find the bits and then reconfigure and create something again. And it took every part of me to create something with that. It was insane.
I mean, the reason I asked the question is because I feel like it's a microcosm somehow of your life where you've achieved greatness. You've touched greatness.
Yeah, that was.
And you've gone through hardship, and there's genius throughout that entire. That's the red thread throughout.
Right.
And then at the end, you give back. Right.
Yeah.
It nearly breaks you.
Yeah.
You're grateful, and you give that back in terms of charitable proceeds, and you take that money to keep yourself painting, to keep extending your lifespan as a painter.
That's the model I sort of created. Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, if I didn't know anything else, within that one story, I can unpack so many common truths that you've faced from such a young age till the present day.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
And that's kind of why I asked the question. So, Sacha, you're someone who the more I would read, I'd be like, fuck, this is crazy. This guy's incredible.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I don't get impressed super easily, but you went to Eton College and you were on borderline going to be kicked out of your school,
Yeah.
right? Or you were going to be
How'd you know that,
celebrated,
man?
right? So they created something specific just for you.
Yes.
Just for you to know, Eton
True.
doesn't do stuff for anyone, right? They kind of they conform, they create, they're an institution, they don't bend too much.
Doesn't matter who you are, man.
Right,
Because they've had every king from every country
there
go through that school.
Eton doesn't do special things for special people, but it did in your case. Can you explain what they did?
Yeah, it was very weird. I got called into school. So yeah, somehow I got into Eton, which was a surprise, right? A big surprise. But my dad was like, I really want my boy to go to Eton. And I was the first generation. And normally you're second, third generation when you go to Eton. And I don't know why. My dad just thought, I really want him to go because I was a really good cricket player. And dad thought that was a good avenue. He wanted me to play for England and that was his dream. And so anyway, I got in. My school were like, how on earth did he get in, right? I was heavily dyslexic, had synesthesia, heavily dyslexic, probably ADHD like every child has.
So just to explain, synesthesia is when your senses kind of get blurred, right? Your sight, your feel, your touch, your hearing. You don't see what we typically see, or you don't feel what we feel, and you don't hear what we hear.
The wires in your brain are going to the wrong places, which means that your senses are muddled up. At the beginning, it caused a lot of confusion, a lot of frustration, because I don't see color. I feel color. It's like it vibrates and I feel it.
Frequency.
Yes. I don't hear music. I see swirls of color when music is played. So you have a different relationship with emotions and senses.
Did you feel alone? You must have felt alone as a kid.
Yeah, not just alone. I couldn't make sense of the world. I literally couldn't make sense of the world. And I have this thing where I feel emotions and I feel energy. And it sounds all, but it's I feel it all the time, and it's exhausting and it's confusing, and sometimes it's oversensory, right? You don't want that all the time, especially when you're a kid and you can't make sense of it all. So if I hadn't found, at first it was cricket, that was my channel. Well, it was sport. I was such a frustrated kid. I was so confused, couldn't make sense of the world. I was getting bullied. It was, it was a nightmare. And I was the bottom of the bottom of the bottom class, right? And it was horrible. And I realized the only way, very strategically, the only way to deal with this is to get in every sports team. Because when I get in a sports team, I get a bit of,
Yeah, you're cool again.
Yeah, you're cool. So I got in literally every single team.
Smart.
From the weirdest teams, from the skiing team to the rugby to the cricket to rowing's the only one I didn't do.
Yeah.
But yeah, every single team, even swimming, and I was rubbish at swimming, but I made sure I was good enough just to get in the team, right? So I did that. And then when my passion didn't lie in that, because it's very one-dimensional, because being in a sport, you have to be very singular, and I'm anything but singular. So that's when the painting evolved later. But to answer your question, my headmaster called in my parents into school and said, and I was, 14, I think, and you go to Eton at 13. I was just about to become 15. We're about to do the GCSE year. And they called me in with my parents, and that doesn't really happen very often.
Are you shitting yourself at this point?
Well, I'm like, oh God, because I was quite naughty. I did lots of naughty stuff, but I didn't really get caught for it. But I thought, oh God, what if they found out? Yeah. I was a bit concerned, but whatever. So I turn up with my parents, we sit down, and the headmaster doesn't do that, right? It's very rare.
It doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't really happen.
Such a rigid
very rigid institution. And we were sat in this classroom. It's from 1570, I think, something like that, this room. It's crazy. And he said, look, we needed to bring you in. Half the teachers at this school think Sacha's a genius, and half them think he's mad. And he was completely serious, right? He was very serious about it. And my dad, being my dad, just went, okay, so our son's a genius. What's the problem? Yeah. And my mum said, oh God, our son's mad. What are we going to do? Right. Yeah. Which summed up my childhood. That's what they were like. And I'm lucky I had those two.
You're balanced out.
Yeah. And my dad said, look, he's at your school. You guys, this is what, you're here for. You come up with something, come up with a solution. And they were like, oh, okay, fair enough. And that's when they did do something incredible. They decided to build a porter cabin, which is, like the builders thing where they have their tea and they lay out the maps and stuff. They put a porter cabin next to the art school, the art building. And they said, okay, that's yours. This is the key. We're going to put canvas easel, paint, and brushes in there, and we don't care what. There were no windows. We don't care what you do in there. Not our business. You can be there anytime you like, and as long as you're at chapel in the morning and every lesson of the day, we don't care what you do or how long you spend there. And that was their solution, and that saved me, because by being in there, I started finding how I could connect with the world. I literally, it sounds like an exaggeration, but I could not connect with the world. I couldn't connect with everything that was coming at me. I couldn't make sense of it. I could only make sense of kids and like when I say kids, 3-year-old and below, and animals. It's the only thing I could. Yeah.
Okay. Any animal in particular?
Well, dogs. I've always loved doggies. But yeah, it was only, that was it. And by doing this, I painted my way back to a connection to our world, and found how I could connect my dialogue, and it was amazing.
Before I go any further, it's an amazing story. Before I go any further, do you have a safe word in case I ask something they don't answer?
What's my safe word? What should a safe word sound like? I've never had a safe word.
Anything that comes to mind. Something that you love, something that you hate. Usually it's one of the two.
Lemons.
Okay. Do you love lemons or hate lemons?
I quite like them in the right place.
Okay. You one of the people that buys into the whole, if life gives you lemons, you make lemonade?
Maybe.
You're that kind of guy?
I think so, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So painting is the only time you feel connected to the world. Is that true? Or have you managed to somehow adapt your life now as you've matured to sort of be able to not feel lonely or isolated without having to paint?
By the way, it's more than feeling lonely and isolated. It's literally a disconnect from the world, which is very hard to explain. But put that aside, it's because I don't get lonely. I've never been lonely. I really like my own company. I like my own space. I like my own, so I've never felt loneliness, and I've never felt boredom in my entire life. They're two emotions I've never felt. I felt disconnected. I felt frustrated, but not lonely. The other ways I connect is through kids. So I have a real connection with kids, and with children with special needs, I have a real connection with, because all the nonsense, all these veils we put, all these agendas we have as human beings, they're gone. With autism, with different forms of disability, a lot of these agendas are gone, and it's about a connection in a more simplified, purer way, and it's something I can connect with and relate to. The problem I find is all the agendas that are flying around, and I find it exhausting, because when I'm with someone or I speak to someone, I feel all the different agendas, and I feel them every split second.
Really?
So it's very, very difficult. It makes you a bit worried, right? So
panicking over
yeah, right? Well, yeah.
But you did mention when you came in the energy of the room.
I feel energy.
Yeah, you feel it. So what is the energy of this room? What's it telling you?
It's very homely, a very happy family, which is nice. It has a beautiful homely feel.
Okay.
And it's quite honest, which is quite rare. And that's a nice thing.
It's a nice thing.
Yeah.
We tried to design something for you.
Yeah, you did. Right?
Yeah. So for those who can't see, who are listening only, as you guys know, we do, me and my wife, we input all of the content information we have about the person, about the guest, and AI spits out an image.
Yeah.
Right. So what's going on with the image? As an artist, self-critique your own AI portrait.
Yeah. So I mean, look. AI is an interesting one. It's an interesting conversation, right?
Yeah.
AI generally.
Yeah.
It's going to be incredibly useful. It's great at getting quick imagery. It's great at connecting with people very quickly. It's going to be great in the advertising world. It's going to be great in architecture, interior design. It's going to put a lot of people out of work, which is sad, but it's very fast at creating an image that can connect with a person, but on a very base level. It's never going to replace artistic creativity, because to create something, to really create something, you can only create from a place of surrender. It's the only way to do it, because we're nothing. We're just like, we're moments of time. And the only way you can really create meaningful art in this world is from a place of surrender, where you can then reconnect to something more powerful than us. The universe itself, universal consciousness.
How big a role does love play in creation?
Does love play in creation? It plays a role. But I think creation is about what it's really about is not worrying about what you're creating or why you create or where you create from or what you create. It's about focusing on how you live your life. And in that, love is the only thing that matters, because the only thing human beings are here for is to love and be loved.
Yeah.
Everything else is just a distraction. We're obsessed with chasing happiness and what is the meaning of happiness and how do we find purpose and how do we find meaning. And it's pretty straightforward. Human beings are looking for love. That's it. That's what we're here for. So with regards to the importance of how we live our life, love is the only thing. In creation, it's about understanding as an artist, as a creator, that it's not to do with what you create. It's to do with how you live your life. Then every now and then something beautiful will spill out of you. Otherwise, it has no meaning. If you're an uncompassionate, unloving human being who's very driven by money or agenda or the ego, and yet you create a few beautiful things along the way, that's great. But that has no legacy in our world.
Yeah. So for you, painting is living your life in a certain way, and the art will come out in that form, whatever form that is.
You'll borrow a moment by living a life of grace, by focusing on living a life of grace, which merely just means treating every man and woman the same. That's all you got to do.
Whether they're, King Charles, who you've had work commissioned for.
I have, yeah.
Right. I mean, you've had people, some of the most famous people on the planet.
I have. It's weird.
Commissioned you to do art.
Yeah, it's weird.
Right? Can you give me, just reel off a few names?
So in the sport world,
okay, we're categorizing them. I like that as well.
You sort of have to.
Yeah.
But in the sport world, I mean, the best of the best: Roger Federer, David Beckham, Tiger Woods, Sachin Tendulkar, literally the Rafa Nadal, Serena Williams, Sir Chris Hoy, who's the greatest British Olympian. The best of the best in their fields, which has been amazing. It's great to meet those guys and meet people who really do lead in their fields, you know. And then there's the Hollywood guys and the Bollywood guys and the politicians and the world leaders, and it's been amazing.
The first celebrity who bought a piece of art from you was Madonna.
Yeah,
Guy Ritchie, right?
You're right. Yeah,
you were still a kid back then.
I think I was 20.
You launched your own gallery or something. Yeah. And famously,
that was crazy.
Yeah.
I launched my own gallery at 20 years old.
And they just walked in off the street and bought 8 pieces of art.
Well, sort of. That's how the media portrayed it. But there was a guy. So I was sort of in that circle a little bit in the club scene, I guess, in London at that time, and it was a crazy time. So it was sort of that time of, you
can use your lemons if you like.
Yeah. It was that time of Kate Moss, Helena Christensen, Sophie Dahl, Guy Ritchie, Matthew Vaughan, who married Claudia Schiffer. And they were all in this little gang, Rod Stewart. And we used to go to these clubs and whatever. And I met one of the guys who was looking after Madonna. We became like good mates, and I had this exhibition. And she turned up, but I think it's because he said, "Hey, a friend of mine's doing a show and he's really good, or it's worth going to."
Yeah.
But no one expected her to turn up. It was.
But how did you feel? Because you're an artist, you don't know what your career is going to look like in the future. You get someone like Madonna, who was at the height of her Madonna-ness.
She was, yes.
So I mean, that's a massive.
She was at the height of her Madonna-ness.
Yeah, isn't that a massive validation for you? Thinking as a young man, like, I'm definitely doing what I should be doing.
No.
Oh, okay.
I said I'd be honest, right?
Yeah, I'm glad.
It wasn't a validation. It made me feel excited. It made me feel, I sort of have this, I'm very honest with myself. So I know when I'm doing something good and I know when I'm doing something bad. And I knew what I was doing was good. Whether Madonna walked in or nobody walked in, I knew it was good. But it did make me excited, and it did get a lot of attention, and it did help my career, definitely, but it didn't give me validation.
You have, look, you I think one of the youngest ever artists to have a 25-year, what do they call it?
I'm the youngest.
The youngest.
In history.
In history, to have a 25-year art career.
Retrospective.
And then do a retrospective, right? Where you basically release some of your paintings over that 25 years.
Yeah, it's like,
is that right?
It's where so retrospective collection is, for me, it's from 1999 to 2024, 25 years of my work.
Yeah.
And there's a body of work that they deem significant enough that it can be a 25-year retrospective collection that can tour the world and be taken seriously.
Congratulations, first of all.
Thanks, man.
You only paint for each collection 12 pieces of art every 2 years, give or take.
Correct.
You sell 10 and you keep 2.
Yes.
Those 2 go into the collection.
Correct.
Okay.
That's how I built the collection. And then various pieces are borrowed from museums, some from private collectors.
Yeah.
Some of them are big commissions, like, major, like I did the London 2012 Olympic painting, whatever, various other commissions that then get borrowed back for the collection.
I get it.
But yeah.
And you famously never really worked with galleries.
Yeah, I have done. But what I have, now this is where you got to use your safe word a lot, but the art world is full of smoke and mirrors. It has to create value. I mean, it's all pretty obvious. Anyone with their eyes open can see what the art world is, what it's done over the last 200 years. It's been controlled by 4 people over 200 years. There's no other industry in the world that's like that. It would be deemed a monopoly. It would be illegal.
Tech, potentially.
Okay, potentially, but there's a few more now. And yes, social platforms, fair enough. But they're not selling assets in the sense of the thing with the art world. It has to create value of something that has no intrinsic value. So it has to give you smoke and mirrors in order to create that value. I was very uncomfortable with that in my early years. And I studied at Oxford and I went to the Royal Academy. I didn't go the whole way through it, but
you got a first at Oxford, don't you?
I did, yeah. That was mad. And I sort of really looked into the art world and saw it for the machine that it is. And it's a bit ridiculous that the various powers that be that sat at the top, there were only 3 names and 2 auction houses, and that was it, right? Who ran the whole thing. They're deciding what's good and what isn't. They're then creating a value of that product. They're then making a huge amount of money out of it. And often that the career of that artist then busts.
They make or break the artist.
Yes, but most of the time what they were doing was they were building the artist up, and it was impossible to sustain it as a living artist. Very difficult to sustain. I mean, that's what happened to Damien Hirst. It's just boom, boom. So very difficult to sustain an overly inflated value in a market that's been completely manufactured. Unless you are constantly, as the entity supporting it, looking for more and more buyers that are going to buy into your story that you're
the
creating.
bubble gets bigger and bigger, effectively.
Yeah, but very difficult. So I sort of thought, I'm not comfortable in this. I'd seen a lot of top artists who were with me. I was part of the YBAs, which is the Young British Artists, I was at art school with Tracy Emin. You had Damien Hirst, you had Gavin Turk, you had all the big names, Sacha Jafri. They were the YBAs, and I was part of that. And I saw what was happening to a lot of the artists, whereby they'd signed to a gallery. The gallery would literally own them, and they would have a show a year. Some of them only a show every 2 years, and it would be 20% of the gallery's attention would be on you, and you'd be used as a commodity, and you wouldn't really have any say or any control in who owns your work, who's buying your work, where it goes to, etc. And you become part of the machine, the commodity that they are trying to grow in value so they can make money out of you, so they can grow as a business themselves. I didn't want to be part of that. And I thought, okay, if I'm not going to be part of that, how am I going to do this, right? And that's sort of when I said to myself, what's important to me? What was important to me was that I could paint till I was 90. Now, if you're part of that machine, they boom bust you. Like 70% of the artists get boom busted. That's a fact. I didn't want that, because then you're finished. Once that happens to your value, you are literally done. There's very little you can do.
Come back.
No, not really. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to paint till I'm 90. I have to paint. I'm not painting because I want to. I don't always enjoy it. I have to. So in order to do that, I need to create a model that's going to be sustainable. And that's when I started looking at what the relationships I'd built. And that's when I realized that I paint my best when I'm linking to humanity, when there's a charitable element, when there's something beyond the creation itself, when there's some meaning behind it that can go beyond
It elevates it.
elevates it and goes beyond it and becomes a legacy within the threads of humanity itself.
Yeah, but everyone's now jumping on the soul. I mean, especially the galleries. They're all jumping
They
on
are.
soul, charitable.
It's very interesting, right?
How do you feel about that? Do you feel like you started that?
I did start that.
Okay. I
did start that.
Yeah.
And I think it's fascinating. So basically I realized that I could create this model, and instead of giving 50% to the gallery, instead of signing to a gallery, being stuck with that gallery where you can't paint when you want, where you can't choose who you sell to, I wanted to choose who I sold to. I wanted to know my paintings are parts of my soul. I need to know it's going to the right person. So I say no to 90% of people. That's the first thing I need to be in control of. Then I need to be able to paint whenever I want and show my work whenever I want. If you sign to a gallery, you can't do that. Then I need to have a charitable element. Well, you can't do that either, right? So I thought, well, there is a model here. Instead of giving 50% to the gallery, I create my own ecosystem, my own network of collectors, my own idea of what I'm about and how to get that across to the world. And I can give 80% to charities.
It's a huge number.
Yeah, it's a huge number, but that 20% is enough because I don't want to be driven by money. I don't want to be a slave to the money that I create or need to create or feel I have to create.
How many artists are there driven by money? Give me a percentage.
70%.
It's a huge number.
Yeah. But how many people aren't driven by money in the corporate world? 0.1%. So, but it's a bigger number than you'd want. 70% is a bigger number than you want. But it's not about being driven by money. It's the necessity, unfortunately. There is a necessity. You need money in this world, sadly. You have to have it. So the way I see money is it buys me time. Money buys me a length of time to paint. That's all money is to me. And I was lucky that I created that model that then was sustainable.
I think you've got enough time to paint for quite a few lifetimes.
Yeah, I mean, I do now, but that's taken 28 years of solid. Yeah.
Hard work. You mentioned the type of person who buys your art matters to you.
Yeah.
Have you ever sold a painting to someone that you thought at the end of it, I think I made a bit of a mistake?
Probably, yeah.
Does it bother you? You can't ever get it back?
Every now and then, yeah.
What kind of person do you want to sell the art to?
Someone who they need to be emotionally moved by my work. They need to. So the idea of my work, I paint from a very deep state of meditation. My brainwaves go into theta. I'm in a complete state of surrender. I tap into something up there. Some people call it I'm channeling source or whatever, but that's cool. I mean, I loved it when someone said that. I was like, okay, that's cool. I feel like I am channeling the energy of our universe when it works. It's only 1% of the time it works, but when it does, it feels like I am channeling our universe's energy, and that's a beautiful thing.
It's a powerful thing.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing. And if that's the case, then when you walk into my studio or you see my work, it's going to evoke an emotion inside you, not every piece. And when you connect with a piece, it will really evoke an emotion. It'll work like an electric shock to your senses. It'll awaken something. When that happens, you will show a very evident emotional reaction. I need to see that. I need to feel that. If that's the case, that's beautiful, because that's where I want each of my paintings to go to. It's hard to always control that and say no to people because you're not always in a position where you can. But that's what I try and do. I try and wait for that reaction I'm looking for. And then I'm like, okay, you're the right person for that piece. And they have to really understand what I'm about. They can't be buying for investment only. They can't be thinking I'm going to buy it, put it away for a bit and sell it in 3 years. They need to buy it because it's going to enhance their life and their children's life and their children's life. That's the whole point of buying art. You know, you don't buy art for investment. You buy art to bring positive impact into your life. Like everything you put in your home, you may not realize, but it gives off an energy. Materials, colors, art, everything gives off an energy. It vibrates at a frequency and it gives an energy. And
you feel that frequency.
Yes. Yeah. And paintings can really bring something very positive to your living space or your workspace.
Yeah.
really positive. But there's a very, very sadly, there's a tiny percent in the art world of work that is really doing that, which is really sad. But when you see it, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. You mentioned when you paint, you're in a trance-like state.
Yeah.
Is it true that when you're painting, you effectively you lay out all of your paint, your brushes, the colors,
Yeah.
and you kind of paint blind?
Yeah.
Because you kind of know where everything is, and you're in such a trance state, you don't know what's happening, but your body takes over.
Yes.
And you end up just painting based on where you know everything kind of is intrinsically.
That's exactly how I paint.
That's
Yeah. See,
that's literally going back to your headmaster. That's crazy, and it's genius.
Yeah.
Like, it could be either.
It is slightly crazy, but
Sacha, you are a genius. How do you feel about people calling you a genius? Does it sit okay with you? Do you wear it comfortably? Like, what's your overriding emotion if someone calls you a genius?
I don't know.
Because you are a genius.
I feel very uncomfortable with that. Like, I feel very uncomfortable. I'd love to be a genius. I'd love to be known as a genius, but when someone calls me that, I feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah. What should a genius be in your mind? Because everyone has that when they're a kid. Like,
it's someone who taps into something no one else has before and creates something no one's seen before. Yeah, I mean, I guess in a sense, in that way, I've achieved something on that level. But it's just that word is a very uncomfortable word, right?
It is. Because very few could ever understand it, let alone grasp it. You do a lot of work in charities, right?
Yeah.
So you already mentioned before, 80% of what you're doing, what you sell, goes into charitable work.
Support, yeah.
Talk to me about the charity work. Where did that come from? The sense of you needing to help others. Is it something that helps sell paintings? Is it something that happened to you when you were younger? What's the driving force behind your...
Two reasons, I would say. One is charity is like, it's like the word love. Love is the most overused word in the English language. It's thrown around the whole time. And yet it's the most underused word in the correct way with its real power. It's the most misunderstood word of its power and its influence. The same with charity. Most overused word, most misunderstood. For me, to be charitable, you have to... So I don't do charity to be totally altruistic. To make that sustainable, you've got to be doing it for yourself. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. You can't sustainably give to others your entire life without thinking about yourself. If you are doing that, you're being very dishonest. And that's far worse, to be dishonest about it. Or you're not doing it, and therefore it's not sustainable. You can give for a bit, but then after a while, it's not giving you anything back. So you don't sustain it. To really be charitable, you have to be doing it for yourself. Then you can do it for the rest of your life. And by doing that, you're going to help others along that journey. Two ways to do that. One is to realize that the greatest gift you can give this world is to shine your light. Because by shining your light, you'll encourage others to shine theirs, which in turn will encourage others to shine theirs, which in turn will bring light to our world. That's the thing our world needs the most. You can print as much money as you like at the moment. You can throw money around at different problems in our world, but it's not going to solve any of them. The thing that solves these problems is changing mindsets and the energy that we emit into our world. That's how you actually make changes, because that's how shifts happen in consciousness. So my charitable work is very much for myself, because I realize that when I'm helping others, my work is 10 times better. When I'm not helping others, I'm not linked to humanity in the work I'm creating, my work's pretty average. When I'm working with children with special needs, orphaned refugees, kids terminally ill in hospitals, kids, on machines with dialysis, kids suffering from cancer, kids suffering from trauma, loss, pain. When I meet these children, when I work with these children, when I'm helping these children through my creations, my work is 1,000 times better. I am more inspired. I'm more energized. And the reason for that is because I have to have a meaning to what I do. anyone can paint for a year. You can splash and paint around. You can create a nice little marketing angle, and you can get away with it for a year. A few people can do it for 5 years. Others can do it for 10 years. To paint for 25 years, you've got to be real about it. And to be real about it, it's got to have poignancy. And to have poignancy, it's got to have constant poignancy that's constantly questioned, tested, and still proven as poignant, meaningful in our world. If you think about the problems human beings have of what's the meaning to our world, do we actually have real meaning? We have these questions all the time, just as human beings. Imagine having those questions as an artist. Is what I'm doing worth anything? Does it have any real meaning? So to bring meaning to that, I work with charities, and that gives me this sense of power and poignancy, which therefore makes my work better, which therefore it's sustainable. But out of that, I raise money to help these charities, and that's great. But I'm doing it for myself. That's why it's sustainable.
Love it. You're going to take charge of the show now.
Okay.
Sacha, there's a bag, bunch of questions in it.
Okay.
Just take one out each at a time, and let's have a chat.
All right.
Hey guys, it's me again. Do you get worried about giving a speech, or being on a podcast, or being someone that's been told to present in front of their client or even to their boss? A lot of people have anxiety when it comes to public speaking. In fact, 74% of every one of us is terrified about the idea of standing in front of other people and trying to convince them of something. The good news is there's a lot of people that can help. In fact, I've launched my own training program, which I'm calling Master Pitch, which combines my 20 years of corporate background running big businesses, dealing with clients, as well as my own personal passion point of presenting in front of large audiences, or being on camera, or in fact, even being on the inside track. So if you want to improve things like your tone, your pace, your storytelling narrative, and how to structure it properly, as well as to understand your audience better and to drive real impact, I'm sure I can help you out. Whether individual level or at a corporate level, my Master Pitch training program can definitely make you a better public speaker. So drop me an email at info@lucaallam.com, or check out my website, lucaallam.com, if you want to find out more information, more details. Right, let's get back to the show.
They feel heavy, man. Why is it? Oh, they're on, okay, golf
balls. You ever play golf? You've done all sports.
I love golf. Yeah, man.
Do you have a handicap?
Yeah, not official anymore. But I reckon I'm 18. I'm about one over a hole.
Okay, that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
Should I read this out?
That's the whole point. Otherwise, no one's going to know.
No one will know. Sacha, : a humanist who paints, or a painter who's a humanist? A humanist who paints. That's it.
That's it. Why would you say you're a humanist that paints, not the other way around?
Because I'm not a painter. My paintings are a byproduct of my life. I focus on how I live my life. Every now and then I borrow a moment. Something magical happens. I give that moment back and I say thank you. It's just a moment. It's like our universe is this incredible thing. If you think about all the human beings that have been, and they're emitting an energy into our world every split second, into our universe. Mm-hmm. That energy's got nowhere to. It can't disintegrate. Once it's emitted, it's there forever. So our universe is full of thousands of years of human energy being emitted into it, and energy from plants, from nature, from water, from animals. It's incredible, right? But a lot of that energy, sadly, is not good. If you connect with that energy that's out there, the good stuff, wow, it's insane. But 99.9% of people are not connecting to that energy, which I find so weird.
I'd be interested to get your take on humanity as a humanist.
Yeah.
If someone asks you, what's your view on humanity today in 2025? How are we doing?
We're getting one thing really wrong. We're obsessed with technology. We're obsessed with evolving through technology, through AI, and we're obsessed with the interesting thing, which I was talking about at a government forum the other day. The thing we're getting so wrong. We're worried about the next generation, right? So we're focusing on schooling, and we're saying education now is totally out of date, and we need to reform the education system. Okay, that's true, we do. So all the governments, schools are saying we need to reform education, and we need to make it more relevant, and we need to make it more vocationally led. And it's less now about history and geography and science, and it should be more about learning about technologies that you can interact with, that you can develop, that you can have a job that you walk into, because university even is becoming less necessary. And we need to teach entrepreneurship. We need to teach how to how to manage finance, and we want to make entrepreneurs out of everyone. There's such a huge fundamental mistake here. The biggest crisis humanity has right now is mental health. The next generation, so kids that are between 0 and 5, 6, 7 at the moment, it doesn't matter how much you teach them about technology, about AI, about developing skills for vocation. If by 15 they've got mental health issues, it doesn't matter what you teach them. The brain's not going. They're full of trauma. They're full of pain. They're full of anxiety. They're full of mental health
damage
issues.
Yeah.
What we should be focusing on in the education system, and the biggest problem for humanity, is at the moment it's about 2% of the curriculum, of this new curriculum, is mental health. It should be 70%. If it's 70% and the other 30% is focused on these things, which are important, then we've got a future. Then humanity has a future. Then we're going to go somewhere and we're going to do amazing things. The problem is no one's worked that out and we're not doing it. So we've got 2% in the new curriculum. If you can teach everyone to sit in silence for 7 minutes a day, you change the world. Simple as that. If you teach a child to meditate for 7 minutes a day at the age of 4, that child is in a much better state of mind and a much better place. They're going to learn how to negotiate their way through the world. And all they've got to do is learn to sit in silence for 7 minutes a day. It's that simple.
How often do you sit in silence?
I'll meditate 7 minutes a day.
Minimum?
No, maximum.
Maximum, okay.
Yeah, because that's all it needs. And
yourself.
I'm not hugely disciplined as a person. So the idea is you can do a 7-minute meditation a day. You don't need to do any more, but you need to do it every single day. And it's amazingly effective thing that will change your life. If you say to someone, you've got to do a 45-minute meditation, they're not going to do it.
They'll run away.
They're not going to do it. But the nice thing, you can set a timer for 7 minutes and meditate for 7 minutes a day. And it changes everything. It changes your connection to the world. It changes your connection to breath, your understanding of breathing, your understanding of human interaction, how you're going to deal with every single thing that's going to be thrown at you as a child entering this world. You can handle anything, because what you're doing is you're not entering the ego. You're not connecting with the ego. You're not becoming reactionary. You're going internal. You're going into a state of surrender, and you're learning to connect to something greater than yourself.
Love it.
A child can do that. Age 4, a child can do that.
Noted. My kid's 3. He's got a year left.
Yeah.
All right, let's crack on. We've got
Next
7.
one.
We've got 7 more, my friend.
Is the word love overused or underused in the human psyche?
So we talked about love being overused, misunderstood, or underused.
It's both.
But then you talked about chat. But which one is it?
It's both. It's the most overused word in the English language. It's thrown around everywhere all the time. And it's the most misunderstood because it's never used in the right way.
So what is love to you? What does it mean?
Love is an understanding of... Love is... it's a wow. I mean, what is love to me? It's hard to explain. I think it's about understanding to treat every man and woman the same, with the same love and respect. To do that, you're not creating hierarchies in front of you. You're treating every single human being the same. It doesn't matter if it's the guy who drives the taxi or the waiter or...
But you got that from your childhood.
Yeah.
But what does it mean to you, though?
That's what it means. That's what I've become. I treat every single human the same. I mean, I'm lucky that I've met the guys who run countries and I've spent time with the guys who clean the rubbish off the streets, and I don't look at them any differently. And I'm really lucky that I have that perspective. And I think it's really important. And I think that's what love is. It's like, it's giving compassion and empathy and understanding to every human soul, and not creating a hierarchy in your mind, because immediately that's not love.
So when you say it's overused, what context are you talking about?
Because we're using it a lot, saying things that we love and people that we love, and we're not embodying love. It's a word really that it's not a word that should ever be used. It's a word that you should become. And I think that's the thing people misunderstand. It doesn't really mean anything because it is everything. And unless you become it, it doesn't really have any power. You know what I mean? It's like a word that sort of means nothing. If you become it, it is everything. It's existence itself.
Yeah, I guess there is, in some cases, there's a high demand for love, right? And there's an oversupply of it because it's everywhere, but it doesn't mean as much anymore.
I'm not sure that is love, though.
But then but it's your point about saying if love is everywhere, and the only way you can really appreciate love is when you embody love rather than banding it around, that it's about your own supply, fulfilling your own demand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's your relationship to your ego that can stop love ever entering, and you don't give it because of your relationship with your own ego. That's how you get blocks with what real love is, because love is a selfless act. It's completely selfless. So it's a very difficult thing for human beings to do.
Can you ever have too much love?
But then it's not love.
Then it's not love. So it is in moderation.
Love is everything. It is everything. So you can't dissect it. You can't analyze it. You have to embody it. You have to become it. You can't have too much of it. No. You can be doted on. You can be spoiled. You can be sheltered, mollycoddled, but these things aren't love. You can never have enough love, no, or too much. I
like it.
Next.
Let's do it.
Borrow one magical moment and paint, or paint without magic for a lifetime. Borrow one magical moment and paint, or paint without magic for a lifetime. Well, what? Neither, man.
No, you got to choose, man.
I don't.
You got to choose.
I don't.
So it's about what's more important to you.
I don't have to choose.
It's my show. You got to choose. What's more important to you? Being able to take that one magical moment, right, and paint like a masterpiece, but you only get that once.
Yep.
Or in your case, you said you need to paint.
Go on.
Paint for your entire life, but never really have that magic.
Well, it has to be the first one, man. 100%. It's the thing of, the greatest thing we're ever given is our childhood. It's the greatest thing we're ever given, which is very ironic, right? Because it's the first thing we're taught or encouraged to move away from.
William Blake used to call it the world of innocence.
Yeah.
So we're all born in with a clean slate into a world of innocence.
We're born...
And the world of experience just corrupts you completely.
Yes.
The adult life.
We're born with magic, but that's what happens, yes. But as adults, if we focus everything we've got on keeping the child alive inside us, which we can, that's our magic. So that's hard to answer because no one's ever going to take my magic away, because I'm always going to reconnect to my child.
Yeah.
But that's where your magic lies.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. It's like we as adults we've become so far away from our child. That's why all the problems in the world exist. If we can get closer to our child, there are less problems in the world.
And the dreams that we had, the passions that we had, which we seem to kill for some reason. A lot of people go through their life and they're on autopilot. They're just existing.
But it's not even that. It's not even just that. It's our relationship to the world itself. So, a way of explaining it, I guess, is if you put 4 kids in a sandpit, different colors, different religions, different financial backgrounds. And they're between the age of 3 and 7, because after 7, it's too late. Between the ages of 3 and 7, put them in a sandpit. They're only going to ask each other 2 questions. They're going to look at the other one. They're not going to say it out loud, but this is what they'll be asking. Are you kind? Will you play with me? That's it. Imagine if adults did that. Imagine if that's all the adult did. Hey, you're a nice guy? Okay, let's talk. We don't. We have 55 agendas going on as to why we want to talk to that person, as to what we want to give of ourselves to that person. A child doesn't do that between the age of 2 and 7. Are you kind? Will you play with me? That's it. And then they have this beautiful interaction, this beautiful connection that is pure, that is magical. That's what we've moved away from. And that's why we have all the problems in the world.
I love how you simplified that. Again, go using kids as well.
Yeah. The only things I understand in this world are through kids.
Yeah.
Because they can teach you everything, but we don't realize that. We move away from it. We need to spend more time looking and understanding children, because that is the magic of our world.
Yeah. Very nice. I really like that.
Is the fractionalization of NFTs the advent of a new art economy?
So what do I mean by fractionalization?
Do you want my answer to that?
Just to explain, to contextualize for those who don't understand.
Yes,
so if
you do that.
You do one big painting, let's say, and then you cut that one painting up into 100 different pieces.
Yep.
And then you effectively sell those 100 different pieces
Yep.
As NFTs, as part of the original, for a larger sum, right? Is that
Correct.
becoming the new economy? That's the question.
I mean, my answer to that is I don't really care. So it's... Because I don't really care what the new economy is. But, sorry, mate. But my opinion on that is it because when you say the new economy, you mean the
new art economy.
Yeah.
Versus the traditional, you do a piece of art, a gallery adopts it, sells at auction, you get a slice of it.
Interestingly, fractionalization been around for centuries. The concept of fractionalization has been around for 1,500 years. The Egyptians had fractionalization, fractional ownership. It's just that now it's tapped to the blockchain. Okay, so it's more evident as to the ownership and the authenticity because of the blockchain. That's very helpful. That's the value in NFTs, in NFTs. Its real value, or its only value, is the fact that it can be a title deed to an owner, which can prove ownership and authenticity. That's its value.
And long term, you get a payoff, right? There's going to be every transaction thereafter on the blockchain, you're still going to earn money from. So there is a financial
incentive. But you get that anyway in the art world. But
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
You do. But yes, there's economies of scale that create an income over a period of time. Yes. But the real value is in the technology, and the fact that it can have. I'm talking about the long-term value. The rest is a very short-term flip. A lot of it is built on a pyramid system. A lot of it crumbles. A lot of it is completely orchestrated value that cannot sustain itself. But NFTs are really interesting when you have a physical asset tapped to them. That's when they're very, very interesting, and they have huge value. Fractionalization is very interesting because it can enable people who want to be part of that investment, who don't have $20 million just to throw at a painting. They can be part of that fractional ownership, as with property, fractional ownership.
So it makes it more accessible. There's a potential.
It's creating shareholders within an asset, which is, I think, it's cool. It makes it accessible.
Getting more people into art is not a bad thing.
Gets more people into art. It's great.
But if they get into art going back to your earlier point, if they get into art for the wrong reasons,
it's all about why you're there. Because the problem is, if it's becoming just another tradable asset, another commodity, then okay, fine. If you want to make a little bit of money out of it, or you're interested in investing in that side of things because you want to spread your portfolio, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that, and you should spread your portfolio. It's something that's sensible. But art itself, obviously, is about something very different. The two things are very separate, but you can dip into both as long as you understand their separation.
Yeah. So what percentage of NFTs have intrinsic value, would you say? It's
very like the internet when it first came to us, Web 2. When Web 2 first came, and Web 3, but when Web 2 first came, or the birth of the internet, it had this huge boom, and then it bust. The whole thing bust, right? And then from that bust, a real foundation was laid, and a real asset was formed, and a real marketplace evolved that was huge. It's exactly the same with NFTs. They came about, they were nonsense, they were worth nothing. I mean, anyone who didn't realize they were worth nothing must have been blind, right? They were just stupid JPEGs of idiotic things that had no value. But because of the the pyramid systems that were set up
And
around
it's shiny,
them.
it's new. People love new stuff.
It's new, and you could promote it, and celebs were promoting it, and you could get involved for not much money. So it had this huge boom, and it boomed because of the birth of crypto at the same time, and it was a way of getting into crypto, because at the time that was the only way to get ETH, and ETH could then translate into Bitcoin, and it was all to do with that, really, the journey into Bitcoin. So yeah, it boomed, but then it completely crashed, as we know, and then a real foundation was laid, and now we have something with value. The value, though, lays in the technology, not the asset. The value is the technology, and if the NFT has a physical asset tapped to it, then yeah, it has huge value.
Nice.
As a digital asset itself, a lot of them are going to be worth nothing.
Do you own NFTs?
No. I have fractional ownership of things, but not straight. Depends what you call NFTs, because NFT just means non-fungible token. So I have fractional ownership of artwork.
Rather than a full NFT?
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't bought a solo NFT.
Was that more out of experimenting or?
Yeah, just because I thought it was quite an interesting thing and I wanted to look into it. Yeah. And it's a way to invest into blue chip art, you know, without...
What's blue chip art?
Blue chip art would be like a proven tradable art asset.
Okay.
Like a Warhol, a Picasso. Even though it can be slightly volatile, it has a proven value.
It just sparked me. I haven't got one of those classic, who's your favorite painter of all time? But I'm going to ask you, who is your favorite artist of all time?
Van Gogh, Gauguin, Toulouse-Lautrec, Degas, de Kooning, Gorky, and Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Are they all French except for the first one? Oh, okay.
They are mainly French, because the French Impressionist period is my favorite period.
Okay.
And French Expressionism. And then we go into the Americans, de Kooning and Gorky, that's more 60s, 70s, 80s. They weren't French. They were like Eastern Europeans who then escaped the war to the US. And then Da Vinci, Michelangelo. So I'm like a real purist when it comes to art. I'm not a huge fan of conceptual art. It's more that evoking emotion.
What's your view on Banksy?
He does what he does. He does it very well.
Yeah, you're a fan?
I think what he does, he does brilliantly. His work doesn't inspire me as an artist.
Okay.
It's not something I get excited about seeing, but I have respect for what he's achieved.
Yeah, nice. Should we do another ball?
Yeah.
Let's crack on.
I forget about these balls, man.
It's okay. I'm here to keep you grounded.
You can invite 3 colors for dinner. Who and why? Do you mean colors? Okay. But who and why are you picking them?
So I always have a playful question. So this is really about your 3 favorite colors.
I see that. Pink, orange. I mean, different tones of orange and pink. That would be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why those 2?
I might have a jadey green in there as well.
Okay. Why orange, pink?
Colors vibrate. That's the vibration that I would like to have at dinner.
What do they tell you when they vibrate? Like, what's the feeling you get?
I can't really explain it. So everything vibrates at a different frequency. And our world is pretty full of static, which is not a great thing. When you get clean vibration at a certain frequency, it really connects with you and elevates you, and that allows you to connect with something outside of us. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Colors vibrate. When different colors will vibrate differently next to different colors. So green will vibrate differently next to an orange, which is why a green next to an orange will look very different to a green next to a blue.
Yeah.
You know, that's...
and you can't explain that to someone. They'll never get it. Right?
Not really. I think you have to take them on a journey, and they have to start painting and feeling, and they have to surrender the ego, and they have to surrender everything that they think they know and understand. And they have to start understanding a bit of meditation, and then they can start connecting with
when you're laying paint, right, the orange feels different in your fingertips to when you're laying pink.
Yes, very different.
Very different.
Very, yes. But the thing is, it's the intention with which you lay it. So you have an energy, the paint has an energy, and depending on how you're connecting with it and laying that paint will determine how it vibrates and at what frequency,
Yeah.
and
So
therefore how it connects with the human soul.
got it. So if you're in a good place, or you've got a lot of inner peace, or you're in a perfect trance-like state of Zen, let's call it,
Yeah.
versus you're intentionally wanting to paint a masterpiece,
Mhm.
they're going to vibrate at totally different frequencies.
Yes. But intention comes from like living how you live your life itself. So it's not about the intention of that moment.
Okay.
It's about your embodiment of your intention in our world.
Wow.
And
Love
that
it.
changes all the time. And you have to constantly question it. And you have to constantly check yourself and say, do I have an agenda? You know, you have to constantly, because naturally agendas come into play, right?
Yeah.
We have to push them away.
100%.
For every good person in charity, there is a bad. Agree, disagree.
For every good person in charity, there is a bad.
For every good person in charity, there are 1,000 bad.
Really? Is it that bad? So talk to me about
that. That's just the way it is, man. You've got the best people in the world in charity. Selfless, beautiful human beings who really genuinely care and are making a huge difference in people's lives. But then you've got people, who have their own agendas, and it's about their ego, and it's sadly not about helping others. That's just the nature of it, I think.
How quickly can you tell if the charitable organization is actually being run by good people?
The organization itself, difficult, takes a long time, but the person within 3 seconds.
If you walked away many times?
Yeah. I mean, I've worked with hundreds of charities, and you learn on that journey, who the really good ones are and who the not so good ones are. And that's okay. You just focus on the good ones, and you keep learning, and you keep doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
And therefore it's sustainable forever. That's it.
There's a lot of people that they always are skeptical when they give money to charity about how much actually of that money goes to, the end recipient, or the right person. Can you give me sort of an average of the time that you've worked in charities over the last 25 years? What percentage of the proceeds actually get to the right people?
Sometimes you're helping a cause and you're giving the money, and 100% of it is going to help those kids, and it's beautiful. And sometimes less than 100%. But it's not really about the money that's given. It's about the intention that it comes with. And that's what vibrates. That's what helps really make a change. And it's also about you giving your time. Real charity is about you going to visit the kids in the refugee camps, going to help doing some proper volunteer work, whether it's for animals, for kids, for special needs children, for terminally ill. It's giving your time, connecting with that human being. And you shouldn't underestimate what the compassion you give that person
it's massive
means to them.
Massive.
But also, it's not just that moment, that interaction. That can vibrate, and that can send ripples around our world.
It spreads. There was a story I heard, I think it was in Sudan, where you went there.
Darfur.
It was in Darfur. Yeah. And you were basically, all you saw were very, very young kids.
Yeah.
And very, very old people, because
they were the only ones left alive.
Anyone left. Everyone else had been effectively killed. And then they were so shell-shocked, they were scared of other people. But you started to paint, and then after a period of about 2 weeks, these people who were completely shell-shocked would come closer to you, and actually by the end of it, they were more or less helping you paint.
Yeah. Right? They weren't just helping, they were better than me. It was beautiful. It's sad when you see someone's eyes gone. You see it in a lot of, it's just really sad. You see people's eyes gone, and then you see them light up again. It's the most beautiful thing. But that's why it's incredibly important to shine your light. It sounds like this very naff thing that means nothing, but to shine your light is an incredibly powerful thing to do. Very few of us are doing it. Some of us do it for a little bit, but then it's very hard to sustain. The world is difficult. Life is difficult. The journey of fatherhood, being a husband, being a son, it's a very difficult journey. And if you just keep trying to shine your light, you're doing a lot of good in our world. It encourages others to shine theirs.
Love that.
Consciously choose our values, or do values subconsciously choose us? Wow, man. Okay. No, we definitely choose our own values, but it's that old argument of whether we are affected more by genetics or by our surroundings. I think that's, and people have theories on both. And I think it's nature over nurture. It's that argument of, are we made of our scientific makeup and our genetics, or are we made by the surroundings with which we were brought up and the surroundings that affect us and shape us? And I think values fits into that as well. I think your values will come more from your upbringing, the environment that you're in, your parents, the schools your parents decide to send you to, the country, the city that your parents bring you up in, the values that they install in you. But that only comes to a certain point, because then after a certain age, it's up to you whether you're going to keep those values or discard most of them. And I think that can only be your own decision. And I don't think it happens subconsciously. I think it's a very conscious decision.
It's like an opt-in.
I think it's an opt-in or that doesn't mean that's not as important to me anymore.
So what are your values then, Sacha?
I think I mean my values are about treating everyone the same. I think that's really important. My values are about how we bring up children and what we give our children, how we view legacy. I think I have values in that. I think understanding that all a child needs, we get it very wrong, but all a child needs is to feel safe, loved, and brave. That's it. Everything else is like, it's not what the child needs. They only need those three things. And with those three things, they can thrive. We focus on a lot of other things for the child. And those three things.
We're obsessed about those other things.
We're obsessed with other stuff.
Our whole life is about providing what we think the kids need.
Yeah. And all they want is to feel safe, loved, and brave. That's it. If they have that, they can achieve anything. And I think that's where my values really lie. I think I've simplified my values so much that I have probably only three very simple values, because I think everything fits into that, It's the same way that every crime is theft. Every single crime you think about is theft. Every value that we think we should install in our life, I think fits into love, compassion, and empathy, and that's it. Yeah. Every single one. And I think as long as you're coming back to love, compassion, and empathy every time, then your values are on track.
Love it. Got one more.
Okay, so commodification, elitism, laundering, and forgery rank in danger to art. These are good questions, man.
Thank you.
Commodification, elitism, laundering, and forgery.
So what's the biggest danger?
In danger to art or society?
Art. I mean, talk about art.
Well, laundering's been going on for hundreds of years in the art world. I don't know how much of a danger it is unless governments decide to, really.
I'm talking about in the art world. It's around the purity of art. Let's put it that way.
I think elitism is probably, what do you say? Commodifying.
Yeah, art, basically.
That's
in it to make money.
I would say commodification is number one.
Okay.
As the worst.
Okay.
Then I would say elitism. Then I would say forgery. No, laundering. And forgery last.
So which one hurts the artist the most? Isn't it forgery?
Commodification.
Does it? Not forgery?
No. Because if we're protecting the artist, the last thing they want is to commodify the most beautiful thing in our world. If they're here to make money as an artist, and if they think that's acceptable or that's the journey or that's what it's about, then they're missing the point, and then they're losing the most beautiful thing in our world, which is to make art. So they are losing more than they would from any of the other things. if their work's being forged by others, that's not going to hurt them that much. It might hurt their finances, but it's not going to hurt them as human beings.
Yeah.
And I think an artist is a human being first, and an artist second, because it's a byproduct.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
And money laundering, you said, has been going on for hundreds
of years. Yeah, because it's an easy way to pass money from one place to another.
How often do you get exposed to that?
I mean, I think people are trying it. It's normally done through the institutions. I think it's something that I always just know pretty quick. Okay, this is someone you don't want to be touching.
I'm with you.
And yeah, it's a pretty easy thing to avoid, to be honest.
Especially if you're working for yourself.
Yeah.
The last ball I have is a blank ball.
Okay.
It's your chance to say anything you want to say, or ask anything that you want to ask.
Right.
Pitch it as you like, my friend. So take a second. That's how I end the show.
Well, firstly, thanks for having me, man. It's really nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
Beautiful to be in your home.
Pleasure to have you on the show.
Nice to have a good chat.
Yeah.
What do you think of my work, my art?
I'm a very weird kind of person.
Okay.
In the sense that I need to, like I said to you before I met you, online will tell me something about you, but until I handshake you, hug you, smell you, I can't understand you or feel you or appreciate you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm a person.
Yeah, I get it.
When I do meetings in my old life, I hated online meetings. COVID killed me.
Yeah. I hated all that.
So I need to be physically there
in front,
for able to feel something good or bad, generally speaking.
I agree.
Like boarding school did that to me. So when I left, I was 6. I went to boarding school.
You went at 6?
I was 6. I went to boarding school, all boys boarding school.
Yeah.
Right? That's a whole nother conversation.
Was that when you were in Nigeria?
My parents were in Nigeria.
Yeah.
That's right. And I learned to adapt to not being present with people that I loved. That made sense. I got used to being away from things. So I learned how to sort of adapt to my local surroundings.
Yeah.
But I needed, when I was with them, I would appreciate them so much more because I could feel them, smell them, and I'd miss them deeply.
But what you were actually
doing... So same thing with art.
You were building coping mechanisms.
Yeah. So when I go and see art, online, it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
It could be an AI piece. It could be,
I agree.
I need to look at it, feel it, smell it, and just be present. So I want to reserve judgment on your art. But what I would say is that I've never been more excited to have someone on the show, and I probably would never be someone as excited to have someone from the art world as you.
Oh, well, that's cool, man. Bless you.
For the simple reason, I love your background. I feel there are some synergies. You went to Eton, I went to Tunbridge.
Yeah.
You were forced to get into sport. I was only good at sport. I was terrible at school.
What was your sport?
I was great at football.
Yeah.
I was great at rugby, and then and then I was tennis. I was a tennis guy.
Okay.
I did play cricket.
Yeah.
I was a bit of an all-rounder, but I was more into tennis in my later years.
Yeah. It was one or the other you choose.
But and sport was a way to get in. So listening to your story, and seeing someone who went from Eton, who went to Oxford, achieved 1, 2, 3, and then decided to say, you know what, I'm going to be unapologetically me and do things in my own way. I absolutely love that. So
I did sort of do that. I did it the hard way, but I think, it's beautiful. Through that journey, you leave a legacy that means something, which is nice.
So I want to see your art.
Yeah.
More so because of the person that you are, not because I'm an art lover. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not. Honestly, I'm not an art lover.
That's where the real meaning comes from.
But your story is more important to me.
Who's creating
100%.
Which I think is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought of my thing then for my ball, which would be that everyone who wants to sort of, connect with art in real life in front of them, go to Musée d'Orsay in Paris. Musée d'Orsay holds the most beautiful works from the French Impressionist period. So we're looking at Degas, Toulouse-Lautrec, Cézanne, Seurat, Van Gogh is in there, obviously. Who are the others? Manet, Monet. When you see these, Gauguin, did I say Gauguin? When you see these pieces in real life, you've seen them in books, you've seen them digitally, you go to Musée d'Orsay in Paris, I challenge anyone not to connect and feel something. Yeah. From the age of, I think probably you need to be 5 and upwards. And that was my first interaction with the art world that changed my life. Probably age 6 when I first went there and I saw Gauguin in the flesh and I saw Van Gogh in the flesh. And that paint resonated, vibrated, connected.
Yeah.
everyone's got to go and see it.
So I want to see your art in real. In real
You got to
person.
come and see my work.
Yeah, I really do. I really do. Look, you've shown a light. Shown a light? Is that what you say? You've shown lights.
I've shown it. I've shone it.
You've shined. You've
I've
shown.
dimmed it.
You've done it all. But
I've
you've
broken
got
it.
an amazing light, mate. And
Thanks,
you know,
man.
you don't need someone like me to tell you. But your career has been extraordinary. But what's nice about you is that you're incredibly grounded. How you're sitting in my couch, in my living room, in my home.
Yeah.
I feel like I could be chatting to one of my friends. So
That's cool.
Thank
I
you
am
for
your
being
friend,
real.
man.
Thank you for being real. Honestly, thank you for being real. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Okay, and thanks for
Appreciate
coming
it.
on the show. Guys, if you've liked this episode, like, subscribe, comment. Thank you for watching Luca's Inside Track, and I'll see you very soon.